Hey, this is Doc Yates. I'm a naturopathic doctor, registered acupuncturist, and a kinesiologist, owner of the Yates Naturopathic Clinic, and the founder of the interactive health website, Able Health. And this is the Simply Health Podcast, a show for females where I work to simplify and demystify the secrets of achieving optimal health naturally, based on my own experience in working with thousands of female patients over the past 15 years of my clinical practice. Welcome to Simply Health. Hey, this is Doc Yates, and today we are talking about brain fog in perimenopause and menopause. And this is great timing for this episode. I just had a client asking about this yesterday, so I'm glad I can release this very soon. So, very commonly, this is a very common occurrence for a lot of perimenopausal and menopausal females, and it's probably one of the most, this and the weight gain is probably one of the most frustrating things, because they don't feel like they're in their own body, and they don't feel like they're in their own mind. And that is extremely frustrating, so hopefully we can alleviate some of that frustration today. Especially, too, when the most common thing that they're told is like, oh, do more mental exercises, do crosswords, do Sudoku. And like, these are high-functioning businesswomen often whose day-to-day is much more complicated than doing a crossword puzzle, and I don't think that's the solution. And then often the next step is that they're given ADD meds, and it's not exactly what's indicated either, because it's not like they just developed ADD all of a sudden during menopause. The thing that changed is their hormones, and that's what we need to address. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So normally I often have 5 points that we're discussing during these little podcasts. Today there's actually 7 things that we're going to go over that you need to consider when you're dealing with brain fog and menopause and perimenopause. So point number 1 is the obvious one: hormone balance. And this is interesting too, because, well, like a lot of hormonal symptoms, you want to do the testing, you want to check estrogen, you want to check progesterone. Either of those can be linked with brain fog, so check them both. But the symptoms play a big role with this too, because sometimes it's not about when you're testing where their hormones are. Sometimes it's about trying to figure out what their hormones are now relative to what their hormones were. So that can be a little bit more difficult. But still, you want to check their hormones and see if they're on the low end of normal, and that will help determine what you need to do to balance that and correct it. And often that right there, that covers a huge percentage of cases of brain fog, especially if we're dealing with that demographic of perimenopause and menopause. Just getting that checked, getting that corrected, and that probably covers 50% of it. But because we don't want to leave the other 50%, there's a lot of other strategies and things that you're going to want to look into, which takes us to point number 2, is thyroid function. So thyroid is something that when hormones change for females, sometimes thyroid can start getting lower as well. And it's also something you'll see with hormone changes post-pregnancy, or thyroid all of a sudden can take a dive bomb and lead to a lot of symptoms of brain fog. In fact, going from the high hormone to low hormone pregnancy is a great example, because it's not like they're going to really low hormones, but it's lower than what they were before, and then you see the brain fog there as well. So you need to check the thyroid as well, and if you're sending them for a check, like a blood test to check their hormones, put the thyroid on the list, check the T3, check the free T4, TSH, and see if there's anything going on with that. Point number 3 is addressing the diet. And yes, I realize that even though the hormones are changing, one of the things you will see with the hormone change is that people will become more sensitive to what they're eating. So the big thing is sugar, refined carbs, and coffee. And a lot of people will indicate, well, you know what, coffee's been shown in studies to improve focus. And yes, it has for a period of time, but when the coffee and the caffeine starts wearing off and someone starts kind of taking that nosedive, it makes it worse, and it will also affect your sleep, which we're going to talk about in a few more points. So I'm not saying no coffee, but if you can keep your coffee to 1 per day and really pull back on the sugar and the white flours and carbs, that makes a big difference. That is one of the things that I have noticed in the weight loss program that I run, which is that we run with a low carb diet, low carb and anti-inflammatory diet. If you cut out, and females report this all the time that do my program, that when they cut these foods out, even if I haven't changed their hormones or done anything for that aspect, because maybe they never indicated that they even had brain fog with the first place, they were just concerned about the weight, after about 2 to 3 weeks being on the diet, they're like, man, I'm so much clearer, so much better focused than I used to be. This is because of the changes with the diet. The next factor that you need to consider, and this you'll be able to tell, well, if you're dealing with your own case, start reviewing if there's medications that you're on. It's not uncommon that you will see medications lead to problems with brain fog. A few examples would be statin drugs. So statins are medications that people use to lower their cholesterol, and it is not uncommon that you will see this leading to issues with brain fog for some individuals. So check through the medication list. If they're on a lot of antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, statin medications, these can all lead to brain fog. And no, it doesn't mean that you just stop them cold turkey. You need to work with someone to help wean off of these and figure out a plan to replace them. But just keep in mind that sometimes you could be spinning your wheels correcting everything else, and then you'll only to realize that the medications that you're on are part of the root problem and the root cause for your brain fog. Point number 5, so moving right along here, is your sleep. You cannot have good focus if you have crappy sleep. So you have to correct your sleep. In terms of correcting your sleep, this goes right back to what we talked about in a previous podcast. It still involves correcting your hormones. So making sure the progesterone is corrected, that's what's going to help you stay asleep. And then if you need to use any natural sleep aids like magnesium, melatonin, things like valerian, passion flower, California poppy, the hops, the list goes on. Those can help you fall asleep. The progesterone correction to help you stay asleep. And when you start getting good sleep, you will notice an improvement in your focus and in your brain fog and your concentration, all of the above. Point number 6 for reducing brain fog in perimenopause. This one is not as common, but I thought I should bring it up, especially since we're kind of in cold and flu season here. Post-viral infections are something that you will see cause brain fog. So when someone has inflammation in the early stages of a cold or a flu, their concentration drops from a 10 to the negatives. So, and sometimes, even though they're over the cold, will report like, you know what, ever since I had that flu, XYZ has never been the same since. And in those cases, I do find that if you use some natural remedies that are natural antiviral remedies and to improve their immune function, you can then see that type of brain fog improve. And again, this is not specific to perimenopause and menopause, but it can still happen during this time, so I thought it should be addressed. So if any of these symptoms developed right after having a cold or a flu and then never went away after, then some examples: elderberry extract, eupatorium, and you can check on my Able Health for more information regarding this. Sage is an easy one. I'll list off some things that you can find easily even in the grocery store. So I guess we would list off sage, thyme, garlic. These are all things that can help for antiviral, if you're trying to reduce like a latent antiviral load post-infection. And point number 7, I left this for last because it's often when you go online and you're looking at brain fog, this is point number 1, and it's not. These are called nootropics. And nootropics are herbs that they use to improve concentration and improve memory. But the thing is that if any of these other things that we listed from point 1 to 6 are off, then those are the root cause that have to be addressed first. If you just jump right into taking a nootropic, like an example would be herbs like, think of one that you would have heard, ginkgo would be one, some amino acids, like different types of tryptophans, and then we've got centella, so that's also called gotu kola. Any of these herbs that they use for improving your memory and concentration, they are really helpful, don't get me wrong, but they're more helpful in cases where you've addressed these other underlying issues first. So make sure you're addressing these first, and then if you still haven't seen results, when chances are you've already seen the results, so you won't need these. These nootropic herbs, they can They can improve the neurotransmitters in your brain and improve circulation to your brain. So that becomes very important when you see things like vascular dementias, those types of cases. But again, step 1 through 6 first, and then look at, before you even consider using specific supplements, look at this first. So Point number 7 would be the nootropics. So let's review our 7 points. Number 1, hormone balance. Number 2, thyroid balance. Number 3, your diet, pulling back on the refined sugars and refined carbs and coffee and excess stimulants. Number 4 is check your medications. Make sure none of those have issues with concentration, memory, brain fog. Number 5, you got to improve your sleep. You cannot have good memory and focus if you have crappy sleep. Number 6 is chronic infections. If any of these symptoms that you have started after a viral cold or flu, make sure you get that addressed. And finally, point number 7, the nootropic supplements to improve your concentration. So that is everything, all the points I want to go over today for brain fog. I hope that was helpful. This is Doc Yates, and I am signing out. Thanks for tuning in to Simply Health. If you want to learn more about health, check out Able Health. If you want to see some of the other projects that I've been working on in health, business, music, and life, please check out the links below.